Episode 7. In a bath. Sitting in a bath, pondering on biogenesis in the thermal vents on the ocean floor. Warm and steamy and flexible. I sit in hot water and ponder the start of it all. Chemistry flowing into biology along a gradient of minerals. Propagating and changing in the foam of deep floor vents. Thermal engine of the earth turning below. Into dark waters emerge the many formless things. Pressure and heat exploding into cool trenches. Back to the water we come in droves, as if we should never have left. We were just popping out all this time, as if from the hotel jacuzzi for towels. We submerge ourselves in steaming baths. We surround ourselves with nature, yearning for a time we dwelled purely within it. Home. Not so much a word as a world. Home really defines your whole experience when you are young. You cannot see beyond it. Home is the firelight in which we all sit. Whenever we stray to the shadowy edge and see things moving in the dark beyond, we are afraid and turn our face back towards the flames. Until of course we grow curious of the night as we get older. Even when we turn away and venture out, few of us go without lighting a torch from the fire and carrying some piece of home with us out on our journey. If we are very lucky, we one day use this torch to light a fire of our own, having taken the time to gather dry sticks from the forest and assemble them together. Perhaps if we are very lucky, with another to share the warmth. This new circle can grow until sparks and smoke billow into the sky. Signals that can be seen by others sitting huddled together. Hope in the cold and damp. There is a comfort in knowing that the fire is there, even when it is lost in the distance, burning still, and could be returned to at any time. Often on our travels we sit with others on our way, sometimes only passing through, telling a few stories and sharing the warmth to last us on the cold walks between. Then of those who have no fire, or worse still, those who are burned. For these people it is difficult to get close to new fires without recoiling. Others prefer the dark. For me, my home really was my world. My family are big, my house was a land, consistent and safe. I never felt that desperate urge to stray. Until I realised my roots had grown so deep that it would be difficult to walk away even if I wanted to. So walk away I did. Onto a plane and to a new continent to work and live for a while, when returning back would feel new and invigorating. We build fires wherever we pause to rest. We always have. It is the human story. So in a way I have created a home of sorts, here where I write. A family, of a kind. Friends from around the world. Their fires nothing but cold stars on the horizon, gathered here to share a night. I am learning so much here, a wealth of new experience and tales from far off places, not filtered so strongly through the smoke of home, but only the torch I carry, which I can move and throw shadows against the wall. They say home is a feeling, and not a place. I find often that tired cliches contain gems of truth that have been allowed to crystallize in language over time. Wisdom now so visible that it seems obtuse, but true just the same. This is how we can feel, sat in our homes, alone in a room which we have been so many people within, feeling the heavy world on us, filled with the feeling we want to go home, to a place we should already be. Sitting by the fire and still feeling the chill in our bones is a terrible place to be. We should extend our warmth and light to those who are cold, for the fire does not get used up, but only grows with new people and fuel to burn. What are our nations if not huge bonfires? The multitudes gather in circles facing inwards, warmed by the same blaze. And of course those who wish to tear down the fires of others, believing nothing beyond the glow to be home. Walls erected where the shadows begin to keep those from afar into the light. What if we toppled these walls? What if all the pools of light could connect into a sea of warmth, where one could wander only in light? Perhaps impossible, but surely worth striving for. The sky above creates a mirror image, where the darkness is absolute and imposingly vast, the light small and far away. So this idea of home is not universal, not natural in a basic sense. It is something we create together. We sit in wet caves and paint on the walls the things we see. Then of course we have the people who warm us in the cold. We spot them sometimes in passing, throwing the shadows of all around them out onto the ground. Often they look back and don't see the same in us. It takes strength to let go of that. To walk away in search of another, it can feel so hopeless. But take comfort in the fact that these people light up. We can find them like moths. I am afraid to leave my circle, as are we all. But carrying a torch and journeying out in search of others who glow, gathering them together to build anew in sight of the place from which I came, I feel ready. Our home is made of what we feed it, into the fire, to burn. The things we love, the things we gather to us, colour the flame in ways only we can. It is ours because the choice belongs to us. Walk into a wide field and see a single person huddled before the small light of a candle. It may not be much, but it is so clearly bright against the dark. In this way, it is important to us, and that's what counts. A home of grass in the early morning, cool basements, the sound of the trampoline outside, shouts for dinner, shrieks of annoyance, TV light in the evening, whispered voices past bedtime, breakfast cereal, card games, hot baths and iced coffee with inside jokes bouncing around like a pinball machine. Lying in bed knowing that all around you do the same, and you will arrive in the next day together. Sitting in the beach hut, which has grown so much smaller over the years, huddled together drinking hot chocolate from glass mugs, with the storm raging over the ocean before us. Rain so torrential it has turned the stairs into a waterfall, and sand blowing in sheets into the air. The taste of salt spray and the dim light from inside and behind. Family all around pressed into the space, there together. Taking it in turns to run into the weather, sprint across the open sand and dive into the icy waves. Turning back and running for cover twice as fast, water trailing behind into the wind. An open towel, warm and dry, held aloft and waiting to embrace. That's home to me. There was of course the time when my home broke in half. When my dad left my mum, I was heartbroken. Really for the first time in my life. Sitting on a cold windswept beach, tucked down inside my dad's jumper, pulled tight over his knees. I would push my head up and out into the air on occasion, but take refuge in the burrow. He would sing old Irish songs, and I was content. When I was young, I was paralytically afraid of strangers and socialising with people outside my close family. Looking back, I'm sure it was strong social anxiety, which I haven't so much grown out of as grown through. Birthday parties were the worst of it. I would have a crippling fear of missing out, so would always force myself to go along, but once there I was terrified. All the stimulus of the outside world was overwhelming beyond belief and very hostile to me. Similarly, I would retreat inside my t-shirt or run from the place and cry, to my parents' dismay and embarrassment. I hate the feeling of being seen and judged, I suppose. That feels like the opposite of home to me. Dens in bushes and trees, spaces we cleared, logs as seats, bits of rubbish slotted into spaces, gathering away from the grown-ups in these forts of ours. In wedding dances of a parent's friend, the adults mingling and dancing, us in our own world beneath, close at hand but entirely separate. A world of under tables and between seats, the edges of dance floors, legs reaching up like a forest around us. Chases and fights and gleeful games, unlimited fizzy drinks feeding our mad runs, bright lights and music buzzing in our heads. My grandma's garden in summer. Adults sat on benches in the shade. We play games of our own devising, running across the lawn, avoiding the others trying to catch us. We take equipment from the garage and build mysterious machines with strange functions. Laser cannons are a favourite. Time machines require the clothes dryer as a chassis. This world is my home, a tiny speck in the darkness. England is my home, green beyond belief when you return to it from afar, the wet and grey background to my childhood and life. Bournemouth is my home, the beach, on the edge of the sea, as far south as you can go without having to swim. My house is my home, the adventure playground of youth. My body is my home. I have spent my time looking out through my eyes, wondering what it would be like to see the world from another. Christmas morning, sitting on a bed that grows more crowded each passing year, in a nest of crumpled wrapping paper, sharing presents and company, soft and warm. I think perhaps home is found in the contrast between the cold night and the warmth of the hearth inside. I sit in a far-off place writing these words. Ironic I write of home while so far from it. Although it seems I have discovered that I carry my home with me. My experience is where I live. I have never moved out of it, no matter how far I have strayed. So really I sit here in these paragraphs, with walls of sentences defining my home. And this here, the small fire built from the tinder of my experience and creation, lighting up the dark. If not always comforting and well made, at least warm and bright. We can huddle in front of it together, against the dark and cold world. Stay a while and sit with me here. The Farm Nymph. The farm nymph lies in pleasant pastures, measuring the gentle dance of the winds with her hair. She hides in dark bushes ripe with fruit, and armed with thorns in the heat of the day. She bathes in shallow pools, and dries on the white sun-baked rocks, the water misting up from her to mingle with the clouds. In her eyes, deep forests grow slowly into the rich earth, weathering the ages like the tides of the ocean. Her hair spills over her face. Corn stems sprout from beneath her as she walks. She breathes sweet breezes into the world. Everything she touches remembers everything it could be, and all that it already is. I met the farm nymph when I was young. I wasn't ready for such a discovery, being so afraid of the world and the possibilities it contained. I can feel the vastness of my future stretching out ahead of me, tall and unknown. I feel my back pressed against the past, leaning my weight into it. It feels heavy and shifting, and reaches back into the darkness. In this quiet place between, I sit and think. I think about a lot of things. I think about how far I've come, and how far I have left to go. But not right now. Sometimes it's okay to be where you are, if you let yourself. That's what I'm trying to do. I glance to my side and feel a figure here in this corridor of space beside me. It wasn't that I hadn't noticed her there before, but I hadn't noticed that she was other. Not me at all, but someone else. All this time. You stand in an empty field, the broken stems of dying corn around you. With a swift motion you release the water, and it spreads out into the arid soil, and the corn breathes in deeply, filling their roots with lifeblood. As they bloom, your assumptions gasp at air they cannot fathom, exposed and helpless, giving their small lives so that something bigger may continue. You walk through the corn, their slender stems brushing against your body. You turn your face towards the moon. You feel at peace. All the assumptions you carry around with you throughout your life, hanging inside you like dead fish, swinging gently as you walk, drying in the sun. Why not throw wide the windows? Let the chilly air blow through your winding passageways. Let the rain flow down into the deepest parts of you. These things you carry float, you know. The water rises, your assumptions stir, twitching like dead leaves in the breeze. They are soaked through and begin to swim. Round and round they go, growing faster, churning the water. The twin monoliths holding us in flare and disappear into the moment. Endless space all around. These things are so new to me that at first I couldn't understand. I was like the stick figure doodle in the margin of a schoolbook, lifted up off the page for the first time. How could I not feel afraid and overwhelmed? But she was still there. That hole we each carry around inside us that howls gently as the wind blows at night. It hasn't gone, but now I can reach inside and pull out things that make sense for the first time. The dominoes rule all our lives. The slightest touch of a single one, and the stream topples at unimaginable speeds, far beyond our comprehension, to spread out in fans through the chaos of our lives and dictate the paths we end up walking, seemingly disparate yet intimately connected. In this way we are the clumsy gods of the future. It still scares me, but as an ache rather than a pain, like the dull satisfaction of muscles growing stronger from use. I was so afraid of losing what we had, because it felt so powerful that it must be almost infinitely fragile. But I was forgetting that sometimes powerful things are resilient and can be trusted to carry on and on, like the tides or the sprawling process of life clinging to its niche in 1,000 different ways. As the lights fade down and we return to shade, the walls now a distant memory. I feel the space around us as a comfort. There is so much distance here in every direction, but here we sit close together, and perhaps that is the most important observation of all. If we were to test the boundaries of this place, explore the shadows, we could do it together, if you'd like. Then if we ever found an edge, a place to stop, we could sit against it, maybe talk a bit, maybe just be quiet, but quiet together, our proximity saying more and louder than we ever could with words. All the world's colours are slightly brighter and more saturated. The stars seem slightly closer. The trees no longer rustle, they whisper encouragement to lonely wanderers on dark nights. Music bleeds softly into every aspect of your life, forming the backdrop to your heartbeat. Our shadows follow us less urgently than before. The hills roll towards us from the distance, rather than away into the horizon. Our reflections look like they know something we don't quite yet, but will be pleased to discover. The animals understand. The universe is exactly the same, and yet. Your feet will be awoken to a dazzling new world of colour they were never previously aware existed. as they stare down into the ground each day you move around, briefly afforded and treasuring the moments they spot the sky occasionally, always feeling that among your concerns and motivations they never featured, and their existence was one of accident and byproduct. They now come to realise that you do care, and for those who have only each other and always look downwards, nothing could be more powerful. Far back in that past I lean against, tunnelled through, twin glowing trails occasionally connecting, wandering off, and eventually back to where we sit now. I am glad of this more than I can describe. The Canadian sun sank and nestled into the wide landscape at the end of another day, as the Pirate Queen sailed across the fields on her tractor vessel, her father at the helm. She carried a cargo most precious, a punnet full to the brim with the ripest raspberries in all the land. The crickets came out and cheered in chorus at the sight. You protect the farm and draw your power from it. You're connected to all the people who came before and will come after, and all the plants that grow there, and the creatures that call it home. Her name can only be pronounced by the howling winds blowing through the trees, in the storm outside and far away, while you sit cozy inside, dreaming of other things. They stop. The world itself seems to lurch slightly as the motion of this other is ended. This world of life, this world of people. They arrived long ago. They have been travelling for so long. They moved through time as relentlessly as space. They would find themselves in the place and moment where they should be very soon now. They had come from beyond, a mass grave in the sky. Soon it would be revealed. Everything would be right and everything would make sense. One thing happened, and that caused the next. It had been this way since that first event those eons ago. They were merely the next event. They too would cause new things to happen. New things would happen. They watched as the universe happened around them. Atoms danced into position, and a path opened up. They could see their way to the end. They can see everyone. They can see you. They step forwards.